Right, I'm sure you've seen them. They're on a lot of the sales portals. The new so-called upgraded Chinese diesel heater exhaust muffler. I'm curious. If I'm honest, a little bit sceptical, but let's have a look. I'm going to take one into the workshop, open it up, and more importantly, do some noise tests because they claim it is actually quieter than the original one. Let's see. Right, we're in the workshop. Let's have a look at this so-called upgrade exhaust or muffler. In first impressions, it is actually much better built. It's an aluminium sort of pressed outer casing, looks like a cast inner casing. You can take that out, and we'll do that to have a look inside. A couple of fixing lugs there, and I don't know if you notice there's actually two, not one but two condensate holes. So the initial impression looks a much better build. However, one of the things they're touting on this muffler is that it's quieter. Now immediately I get a little bit suspicious because if I put it like that, you can see clearly the exhaust goes in and goes through a baffle system and out the other side. Now there's two types of the cheap Chinese mufflers like that. This is this one. Which obviously is going through a baffle system, and there's this one which goes straight through. And sort of, the instinctive view is, well, the one that goes through the baffle system will be quieter, but actually it is not. Those of you who've seen the John McKay tests, and I'll put a link down there. He's a diesel heater nerd. Has demonstrated that actually the straight through is actually quieter. Now, I'm not an expert in audio stuff. My primary degree was in mechanical engineering. I did do a bit of audio engineering, but not enough to really take a theoretical view on that. But certainly the evidential work that John McKay done suggests that the straight through is better. And I can imagine that is the case. The way sound waves resonate. So when I see this, I am wondering if their claim that it will be quieter is actually true, but maybe it will be. Anyway, let's take a look on the inside. Okay, all screws out. Now what happens now, I wonder what happens now. Shit. Okay, I've got the top off, and now having a good look, I can see the way it's put in there. I'm not going to take it out because I'm worried about getting it back in, but you don't need to because you can see quite clearly. Actually, it's very well built. Actually, that there is the tube that forms the path of the exhaust gas, but you can see there's chamfered holes all the way along, and there looks like some absorption material each side, and the tube is actually attached through a slot on the outer casing. It could be I could prise it out and knock it back in, but I don't need to. So though it's going through a baffle system, the baffling is on the outside, similar to the ones with the straight through on the cheap Chinese. So yeah, it might be quieter, but I think we've got to do some tests to find out. Okay, so this is the very crude test rig. It's very much qualitative, not quantitative measurements here. So on the left you can see the existing cheapy Chinese diesel heater exhaust muffler poking out there. I'm doing this other stuff at the moment, so I've not got it plumbed into the main tank, so it's just dipped in a container of juice there. Don't get extracted by that, that's irrelevant for this. And on the right you can see I've got a blue box with a piece of foam in the bottom and a Bluetooth microphone which feeds into an app on my phone which measures sound, and I'm on a bit of a noisy road as well, but I've got ways of negating that with this sample rate, and we'll look at that in a minute. So the app I used was called SPL Meter, dB and Sound Meter, free in the Play Store, although you can pay to get rid of the adverts, which I did. And you can see it in operation here, groovy little thing. Now those three numbers in the middle you can save off, which I did in each test. And what I found is if I sample for at least 20 to 30 seconds, then if there was some extraneous noise, like for example next door neighbour closing his gate, yes, it might affect the maximum sound value, but not really on the average. It didn't really have much impact if I took that time to sample. So it's the average that we're interested in, and you can save those numbers off, which I did after each test, and we'll have a look at those. Okay, I've just switched the sound meter off. I haven't looked at the readings. I thought I'd just quickly sit by and listen to it. And I know listening to something on YouTube is nonsense, but subjectively it might be a bit quieter actually. I think it might be. I don't know if that's confirmational bias, although I don't think it can be, because I actually expected it to make no difference or be worse because of the baffle configuration. But we'll look at the readings. Right, and now recording right by it, and it's down to about its 2 hertz that it's set at. And again, I reckon I might be wrong. I reckon it actually could be a little bit quieter, not massively, but I think I'm noticing a bit of a quieter sound than I'm used to. But we need to look at the numbers. Okay, the scores on the doors. So on the original one, the old cheapy Chinese one, the average for the startup full chat came out at 69.3, and on the new one, 65.9. So that's a 3.4 decibel difference. Not a great deal, bearing in mind that actually for the average hearing, you need about 3 decibels before you can notice a change in volume. But certainly was a change in volume, and it looked as if the actual numbers verified what I thought I heard, and that is that the new one is a bit quieter, despite my initial scepticism. Okay, so on this test, the heater is now up to its correct operating temperature, and it's dropped down to 2.0 hertz on the fuel pump. You probably worked out, of course, for this test I needed to use manual mode as opposed to thermostatic mode. And the result scores on doors. The original exhaust gives an average decibel rating of 62.1, and the new one 57.3. So what's that? That's a 4.8 decibel reduction. Now that's under 5. That is a significant number, bearing in mind that the decibel scale is a logarithmic one. So it's a big change in energy, sound energy needed to create a smaller change in the decibel scale. Okay, so happy to say I was wrong. Well, happy to be a bit of humble pie, but just a little bit of humble pie. But in fairness, it does seem that the new upgraded Chinese diesel heater exhaust muffler is quieter. Not massively, but yeah, I certainly noticed a difference by listening to it, and the numbers seem to support it. Now, it was a bit of a crude setup. I wouldn't say those numbers were absolute, but with relative measurements between the two, I think they had some value. So yeah, a little bit quieter. Be good to see what John McKay made of it with his sort of fancy kit setup he's got, and I might ping him a message and say, what do you reckon? Well, I think the new bit of kit is definitely better. It's in the construct. It's definitely put together, much stronger, more resilient bit of kit, and it's certainly staying on my van. Anyway, I hope you have found this of interest.